Hi, and welcome to livingpianos.com. I'm Robert Estrin. Today's show is Secrets of Phrasing, How to Approach Two-Note Slurs on the Piano. Well, there are two aspects of phrasing, and the terms are sometimes used interchangeably, but they're two distinct meanings. One meaning of phrasing is how you approach the music in terms of musical units, a phrase being a musical sentence. The other, which is what I'm talking about today, phrasing, is the ways in which notes are connected or detached. Two-note slurs are a classic example of phrasing. Last time we talked a bit about staccatos, and I talked about how staccatos are approached with the wrist, as so. Now, of course, that is a gross generalization of staccato because staccato has many different contexts, as I discussed in my video about staccato. Well, two-note slurs are essentially one note connecting to the next note. Even if the second note doesn't have a staccato on it, it essentially is to be played staccato. Why is that? Because as I explained last time, staccato is simply not connecting notes, detaching notes, and a slur is connecting notes. So if you have a series of notes that are slurred one to the next, and then the next two notes are slurred to each other, you essentially have long, short, long, short. The slurred note is long, the staccato note is short, etc. So how do you approach such a thing? Well, staccato, as I just demonstrated, is played from the wrist in order to get a good, crisp sound, particularly with faster tempo music. Slower tempo staccatos are a completely different story, which I'll cover in a future video. So when you have two-note slurs, you want to go down for the first note and up for the second note, and that creates the two-note slur. I'm going to use the beginning of the Opus 36 number 2, I believe it is, Clementi Sonatina in G major, because it starts with two-note slurs in the right hand. First, I'll play it up to tempo, just so you can hear what the music I'm going to be using is about, and then I'll break it down for you. So in that musical example, you hear the snappy staccatos, but they're not all staccatos. They're two-note slurs. The first note indeed is staccato, and it's played from the wrist. Now, the reason why I demonstrate a single note is because it's really important that you end up above the key for the preparation for the next note. So you go up, down on the staccato, and then the next one you go down and you come up on the third note. So watch just three notes. The first note is marked staccato, the second note is slurred, the third note is staccato, and you use the wrist to delineate the phrasing as so. Now, I know that looks terribly simple. The reason why it needs to be broken down to this extent is because, as I explained in just approaching staccatos, it can be really difficult to identify the wrist separate from the arm, and it's very important that you understand when you're using the wrist and when you're using the arm. There's certainly a place for arm in piano playing, but in quick, snappy staccatos or two-note slurs, the arms are too cumbersome. If I were to play this same music and use the arms for the staccatos, for the two-note slurs, instead of the wrist, this is what you end up with. It's heavy and ponderous. So I'm going to play very slowly now and show you how to approach this by using the wrist for the two-note slurs, as well as the staccato notes. So that's the secret of approaching two-note slurs. You must utilize the wrist in order to accommodate the staccatos, realizing that you go down for the slurred note and up for the second note of the slur, which by its very nature is detached, which is synonymous with staccato. I hope this has been helpful for you. Thanks so much for joining me. Again, Robert at livingpianos.com, here at your online piano store. I'll see you next time.